The Board of Elections.
For the agendas.
Yeah, oh. Yeah, I'm sorry, they were out there, I thought I had to pile in there, apologize.
That's okay. So, then I was just making sure, public comment always comes first, but I thought, you know, you never know what you might be told. So, would anyone in the public like to comment? Oh, thank you.
I got just a couple questions here. What you guys, what'd you decide on the hand counting physical ballots?
We haven't decided anything because we can't decide anything except at a public meeting.
Okay, we talked about it there. With that, is there any chance you guys could, Georgia just put it in for the whole state? All the physical ballots will be counted before they leave the precinct. They not per, it's physical counting, just 1, 2, 3, 4, to make sure. I think I've seen in your minutes one, I don't know how far back it was, you had 16 ballots that you found in a bag after the election. So if your vote cast records, how did you have 16 ballots missing and not know it?
Well, I guess it could easily happen if the poll workers occasionally, if we don't close, again, I can't remember when it happened, so there are different machine configurations. At one point, one of our, the M100 had a flap, for lack of a better thing, and an auxiliary ballot or something where you weren't running it through a scanner, it could get put. And at the end of the day, they're supposed to go in a particular folder, and whoever was grabbing at them or taking care of it, put it in a ballot bag. And so we found it, we caught it, but we didn't catch it on election night because there's simply, if you're having ballots returned, sometimes the poll workers put the unused ballots with other ballots in the same bag, and it's kind of just an amalgamation of paperwork that we have to go through. Every once in a while, they have poll workers, they make them, the error is they left the ballots in a machine where they were pulling them out and they didn't get all of them. And so you can have, if the 15 appeared there, and when we got our hands on them, we found them and so forth. I mean, there's just different ways it's possible for 15 ballots to, and they may have been counted. They may have actually run through a scanner, but they didn't get pulled out of the scanner by someone who was doing it. And so human error, you know, can occur and so forth. And again, I can't recall the specific instance. I just know over the years, our staff has said, well, we found a ballot here, or we found someone did this with that. And then we try to track back and get with poll workers and, whoever was in charge of a particular precinct, if it goes back far enough, when we had 50 precincts, or when we were shrinking to the smaller number of voter locations, it can happen. It's just, it happens.
Is it too much to ask to do that, to count to physically hand count the ballots, to make sure your ballots match what you have?
Yeah, it can be, again, when you consider how large the number will be for a presidential election.
The whole state of Georgia is doing it this year.
Yeah, I understand what Georgia's going to do, some kind of hand count. I would be surprised if they're going to count, but nothing surprises me anymore. But I'd be surprised that you're doing any kind of counting until the voting location, they close. In other words, it's closed, so it's 7:30 at night, they're gonna start counting.
What's the
Because
most,
you would not want to count during the day.
what's the most voters in a precinct in county?
It's out.
Registered,
It's registered, probably over 1,000, I think we have. around.
So 1,000, to count 1,000 ballots wouldn't take very
Well,
long.
that's per precinct.
That's per precinct.
Not
That's
per-
per
And the
precinct.
fairgrounds has 16 precincts.
It's a close.
well,
it's a
let's just
closed
do the whole
poll.
number. We're expecting we're probably gonna be in the 30,000.
But if you divide that over precincts, each precinct counts the ballots to make sure they match. To
And
match the number
and
of votes.
again, when you say count the ballots to
Just-
see
just-
that they match,
No, to make
they
sure,
match what?
to make sure there's no ballots missing, to make sure all the ballots, so you have the exact same amount of ballots as you do. The whole state of Georgia's doing it. It's been passed.
Well, no, I
Just to physically
understand.
count, not to count
My
candidates.
understanding, Georgia's gonna sit there and go, I've got a ballot and it's got 75 items on it.
You're misunderstanding it. They're not counting individual
No,
races.
those.
All they're doing
They're
is
just
counting.
gonna count sheer number of
Yes,
ballots.
to make sure
One,
ballots, so
2,
16
3,
ballots
4.
don't show up missing in a bag
All right.
somewhere. Is that too
And,
much to ask for? 1,000 ballots per precinct?
well,
If we do that kind of thing after the election, we check to make sure the number of ballots matches the number of voters that went through.
Do you hand count the ballots physically?
No.
1, 2, 3?
No, we can't, we use the number that's on the machines.
What I'm asking for is an audit trail.
Voters.
A simple audit trail of counting the ballots before they leave the precincts. That's what Georgia's doing.
right. Well, I would say this year, our budget doesn't include that.
$500,000 and we pay out 200,000 plus or more for proprietary
I'm just
stuff that
saying.
we don't even have.
You asked me a question, and so the best I can answer right now is, I don't think our budget would include paying people to sit there and count ballots.
How many people do you
And how
have?
many, and again, because we know people make mistakes, they're just human. I'm not blaming anybody, it's just, we're not perfect.
So you don't think
And
the
so if you
precincts?
gotta count and it's wrong, you gotta start all over. So the first question that comes up, what will be the total number of ballots we'll count at a given time? Is it gonna be like 25? And then say I give that to Mrs. Ritter and she counts and makes sure there's 25? Because if she gets 24, we gotta start all over, right? Because I said there was 25. She said she counted and got 24. So we are gonna start over with that process. Because I don't think you'd wanna say, all right, Mr. Syke, you count up to 500. And then she counts and she gets 503. All I'm saying is, one of us has made a mistake because we're not identical. So we'd have to start all over. So we'd have to have a process where we're picking a number, and probably the smaller the better. Because if we make that human mistake in counting two of them stick together, whatever the process is, we'd have to go through that. So it is going to be, whatever the counting is going to be counted, has to be counted twice. And in the instance where we don't get the same number, it'll be counted 4 times. Because we'd go back and count again, and then the other person would then match my counting. So that's all I'm saying is, it's a little more than just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm doing it or someone else. Because you're going to want to know that it was an accurate count.
When you go to the bank,
And so that's a fairly expensive process.
when you go to the bank, and you get a large sum of cash, do you count it?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so a machine counts it, spits it out. The teller counts it.
The bank I go to, I've actually seen them count it. They count it by hand.
Okay, so-
If they use a machine, it's when it's first bundled.
So you don't think it would be fair to say we should do the same to our ballots before they leave the precinct? I don't think that's too much to ask.
Well,
And you're saying they can make mistakes. So you're saying that you trust a bank teller to count out the money.
no, I
but
said
you
I
don't-
counted it myself.
Okay, because you don't trust the bank counter.
Humans make a lot of mistakes.
Okay, machines make mistakes.
Well,
So
Yes,
I don't think that's too much to ask.
well, I understand.
it's just an
and
audit.
it's certainly something I think we would give consideration to, not at this election.
I think this election is pretty important.
I think every election's important. Quite frankly, if you want my 2 cents worth, I think the election that involves township trustees, county commissioners, city council is far more important to me than the presidential election that has a bunch of people that are bureaucrats and congressmen, et cetera, that have all sorts of agendas that have nothing to do with my well-being. Whereas I'm far more concerned about how my city's being run because I live in that community and it impacts me a whole bunch more. But that's me.
I would imagine if you'd ask the people down in North Carolina and Tennessee how they feel about the presidential election, I think they would feel different at this point for the chaos they're going through. They can't even get FEMA help down there.
I
So-
hear
so-
there are all
Yes,
sorts of
that's not
reports.
true.
What do I know?
I think
I've
you
been
know.
down there, they're getting lots of help.
they're getting help from outside entities. They're not getting help from the government down there.
No, I disagree.
Okay, well, you're just.
Right.
Do you have?
Anyway,
Okay.
I appreciate hearing about that. Certainly
I
give
just-
consideration, but again, I'm only one vote. We'll be ended up discussing about it. Maybe there'll be a different resolution of that question.
If your discussion's anything like it has been in the past, so far, the only question I found and this is the 5th meeting I've been to, the only time that anything was questioned in here that we've brought to you, I think you asked at the last meeting, I watched the recording, you asked Runback, are they on the front end or the back end? And he said it was the front end, everything was fine. They're in a RICO lawsuit out there. Dominion, and I know we don't use Dominion and don't even start on that. I'm just going to explain this. Dominion had sworn testimony by certified, they was acceptable for doing it. They had testimony that Dominion's passwords was posted in there. They said it was the equivalent of having the most safe, secure bank and posting the password on the door, taping it on the door. They was found in there. Tina Peters had forensic audit. You know, they just sentenced her to 9 years in prison. Tina Peters had a forensic audit made of the Dominion hardware, and it does not match. Okay, it's not here. Your own election vendor sit in here and said they provide services to other states and other counties that they have the ability to change the election results. They also provide the same machines that has the ability to hook to the internet. That is against the law as a federal law. And he sit here and said that. He also admitted that they had used an old version of Linux. So an old version of Linux that has none of the upgrades for anything that could be gone or anything that could happen. He said that in here. You all heard it. It's on a recording. And you guys just sit there and never even had a discussion about it. And you guys are supposed to be the ones that's in charge of our elections in this county. And no questions, not a single question from you. It's like you ignore the fact that we bring this stuff to you. It's like hide our heads in the sand so we don't know what's going on. This is going to come back and bite people in the ass before this is all over.
At this point, you're not really adding any public comment. So are you done?
The mail-in ballots, you actually receive the physical ballots that are returned. The physical ballots, not a report from the post office, the physical ballots. Any mail-in ballots that is sent out,
You're talking like absentee.
absentee ballots, you receive
Of
the
course we
physical
receive
ballot back.
Yeah.
Nothing gets returned to anybody else.
I don't know what you mean by.
How many
That's a
physical
very-
ballots do you get returned?
I'm sorry.
How many physical absentee ballots do you get returned as undeliverable? And you receive those ballots.
Very few ballots are ever returned to us undeliverable, maybe 5 per election.
What about the mailings out to, for people to request them?
Those we don't get returned back either, the request forms. If someone calls in and requests it, usually they provide us the correct address that it's gonna be delivered to.
Okay. I still think we need to physically count the ballots before they leave the precincts. That would kind of at least shore up that with No Wink, it's No Wink is hooked up. And you have private entities, NGOs, non-governmental organizations has access to that. So they have real-time access to those. Yes, it's in all the papers that I give you. So
Yeah.
I give you a ton of papers. You said that you said, well, the Runback's the only thing you brought up, and you said you read them. There was stuff on No Wink. There was stuff on Unison. There was- And you the only question was Runback. Is it on the front end or the back end? That was it. You all don't even look at anything that's going on, any of the reports, any of the stuff that's going
No,
on.
the difference is we may not agree with you and that seems to irritate you.
No, I'm just bringing it up because you don't even have a
And
discussion on it.
So why would we necessarily have to have a discussion if we're satisfied with, you brought it up and we don't see a problem?
Did you follow up and make calls to last month with the
Hawking,
attorney here in the county?
well, we certainly have talked to our lawyer, yes.
Can you add it to the minutes, the stuff that was been
No,
presented?
that's, attorney-client privilege doesn't allow us to throw that stuff in unless. he
Attorney-client
writes
privilege, and you
something.
cannot
If
put
he
the
writes
documents in.
something back to us, if he tells
Well,
us.
He's talking about
Because he's talking about the documents. they
The documents
received.
we get.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
I did speak with our attorney yesterday and the prosecutor's office, and he suggested because the mask that you have presented to us, we cannot physically scan in. But if you could provide that information on a USB port, we then have to give it to our IT department. And they have to make sure that that's
There's no
fine, there's
virus.
nothing wrong on it. And that, because we just cannot put USBs into our machines.
So.
We're not allowed.
So here we are now, we're 30 days or so from an election. I've been here for 5 months. And I'm just now finding out about this now. When I could have known this all along, clear back through, that USB could have been presented in, and then somebody, at least a county attorney would have had to have looked at it because it was in the minutes. And it would have been in the documents. Did you happen to get the EAC certification, a copy of it?
I had emailed it to Jolene.
Okay.
The EAC, I went onto their website, which is not easy to use, of course, but I did find the engineer change order for our voting machines we use here in Washington County, which that was brought up when it's my turn.
Go ahead.
Oh, before that, I totally agree. County, township, that's where we need to take care of. If everyone took care of their own township, their county, then we can clean up anything above us, if it's corruption wise. I'll wait for this. So there was a case in Georgia where there was 2 experts. I'll give you this copy. Clay, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, and then a Benjamin Cotton. I can send you the video clip of their testimony. They have the master sales receipt with a lot of information on how they are hacked into and all kinds of other stuff, but I don't have time to go over this. I will give this to you, but these 2 testimonies, do I have permission to send you the video of the testimony from these 2 experts, one from the Department of Homeland Security, and I think the other one's DOD.
Yeah, if you want, you can send.
Okay, I'll send that to you, and here's this case. And then the other one is a letter from Jim Jordan to Department of Homeland Security on behalf of Rose, talking about the federal citizenship information in Ohio, how to clean up the voter rolls. Department of Homeland Security just want to give us a list, Ohio doesn't want to clean it up, so how we, in our own county, know who's really registered as a voter or citizen. You know more than I would.
Ohio did just purge their rolls. How many were purged from our,
I think well, totals that were, I don't remember the exact total, but that was just regular, those were citizens. But yeah,
the secretary
but the
just,
secretary did do a thing recently where they went through to look for through statewide, the secretary
Well,
of state.
this is based on federal citizenship that LaRose has asked the Department of Homeland Security Secretary several times, that Jim
Yeah.
Jordan had to write a letter saying, hey, we've asked for it, where is it? How can we clean up Ohio if we don't know the federal citizenships of Ohio? I might be misinterpreting the letter, just, that's what our state secretary is fighting with the Department of Homeland Security on federal citizenship roles here in Ohio.
Apparently that's coming on the 11th. At least that's the date.
So that's just handing that to you. The Georgia case, to let you know, the testimony was mind blowing, but they did dismiss it. But Georgia did vote 3-2. I believe it was Georgia that voted 3-2. But that's not the case. There's more. There's another Supreme Court case, 24-258. I didn't have time to print that out for you, but that is active in the Supreme Court. There's over 2,300, a lot of lawsuits coming and asking, here's our grievance, please listen to us. If you want to check out that case, 24-258.
All right, anyone else?
I had a question about, you were talking about the 16 ballots that,
Well, I'm not sure which 16, you know, it's
in
there's
the
no
maps,
number
I
that
think.
sticks.
15, 16,
you know,
whatever.
were they found before the accreditation?
Final,
Before the official.
Yeah, because election night, of course, is not the final result.
Right.
That's the unofficial canvass. The official canvass, the one that counts, occurs days after that, because we have to wait for people that have mailed in absentee ballots to come in within the statutory time period. So we have those that are coming. During the election process, there are provisional ballots. People come in, and sometimes it's as simple as they requested an absentee ballot, but then they came to the polls and voted. And so those folks vote provisionally, because for all we know, there's an absentee ballot that we've either counted or is coming through the mail, and they're effectively trying to vote twice. Other people, they requested one and then decided, no, I'm gonna go to the polls. I'm just gonna vote. And so we go through all of that. Of course, other folks show up, they changed addresses, someone's gotten married and decided changed their name, and then you have people who are coming to vote thinking, this is the time to vote. I mean, you have to register. I didn't realize I had to register. So we have all of those that we deal with. That's all done again in open session. And that's when we arrive at the final canvass. And that can be the occasion where they go, we've been through all the machines, we've been through all the ballot banks, and here's what we found. We talked to the poll workers. This is how it happened. We're gonna add that to poll worker education so that hopefully it doesn't happen again. We're just remind them, you know, make sure you go through and you empty that, you put it in the correct folder. Don't throw it in the ballot bag and so forth.
A 20-minute count with 10 people, it would take care of that problem.
Well, it wouldn't if they didn't pull it out, you know.
You would know whether the
They might
ballots,
just
they
come
was
back
missing.
and tell
That-
us,
That's
you
the
know,
key.
this is the problem. I'm not sure what you're concerned about if arguably they have picked up every ballot, those that were used, those that weren't used. You remember, we send them out with paper ballots. This isn't a situation where it's 100%. We're getting our, printed ballot off our equipment.
It's not 100%.
No, timeout. It's not 100% the printed ballots off of our equipment. You may walk in and say, I'd like a paper ballot. We're gonna go here. So that's a different, it's a different, all I'm saying is, it's not that we're just counting all those,
The
smaller ballots. The freedom vote, the freedom vote. I hate to use those sorts of words because sometimes, people don't know what's a freedom vote ballot. But that's where our equipment prints off that ballot and it gets put through the scanner. So they'd be counting those, they'd also be counting the paper ones. But there are gonna be other paper ballots that aren't used, and that's where I said occasionally they end up grabbing all of them, putting them all together. And then we discover that over the next couple of days when we go through and go, wait a minute, you didn't, folks, you shouldn't have put those in there, they should have gone in this bag. Just human error. We catch it and we count them, we make sure if they were run through or not. And then we have the final results.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's asking the ballots that are scanned that night through the tablet, the optical scanners, which are known to
Yeah,
be corrupt.
I'm that right.
The ballots that went through that box, I believe he's asking if the ballots within that box matches the tabulator's number.
Right.
That's what he's asking of me.
And
Am I
I
right?
understand that, and I'm just trying to figure out if we wait and do that 2 days later, where's there a problem?
Why not do it at the precinct before they
Because-
leave, so ballots don't come up missing?
We're keeping people even longer.
You count your money when you leave the bank. You admit it, you said that.
No,
So why
I said
should
I
we count the
count my
ballots
money,
before they leave-
I
they
said,
leave
I
the
didn't
polling
say
place?
count, you made, if you included in there that I counted it before I left the bank, I don't always do that. Probably 90% of the time I don't, but when I get home, I do.
Why not do it right there? That's what they recommend.
Because I'd like the customer behind me to get a chance, because I do most of mine at the drive-through.
You don't
And I
want,
try to be a nice guy and let the next person up and not hold them up, because maybe they're in a rush and need to get somewhere.
I think a simple audit at the polling place would be justified. I think that would be.
And I'm
enough.
just
This is really good.
suggesting we end up counting them and they're under lock and key. They've been brought by an R and a D. So those two people would have to collude to do something that was wrong. And at the end of the day, we have an R and a D that count them here.
If we went back to paper ballots, hand count, we wouldn't have all this process of this could happen, that could happen, this could happen. This is
Well,
going on in
again, there
Georgia,
would,
this is going on. in
I
Virginia.
doubt that anyone, again, I don't know. We'll
For a
wait and
$500
see what the
million budget, I'm
Secretary
sure
of
we could
State
do it.
says. But I know this, I'd be surprised if we were counting ballots at some election, or a polling place. They'd be going back to a central count location where they'd be counted there. And people be hauling them into the central count. And they'd be matching up the number of how many people showed to vote versus how many ballots did they count at that point. If that's what they're gonna do in counting.
If I may, I recruit poll workers. And when we ask a poll worker to come in at 5:30 in the morning and stay until the polls close and they shut everything down, that's usually until 9 p.m. at night. I have a hard time getting poll workers when it's that long length of a day. If I ask them, and Jolene, you've been a poll worker and will be for us again. If I ask poll workers to stay another 2 to 3 hours, because we have 2 machines that those ballots go into. They would have to, and not just one precinct is in that machine, obviously. The fairgrounds has 16 precincts. I'm going to ask poll workers to stay, it would be more than 2 or 3 hours to divide all of those ballots by precinct. I'll never get another poll worker again.
My other concern would be security of ballots as well. We're taking them out of lock and key at the precinct location, dividing them out there. When the polls are closed, when you're trying to get the results in, all of that at the same time. So we can have other concerns
It's a
versus.
secure location, and we take an oath. And I volunteer to count. I don't mind staying, because this is very important. My vote is important to me, and so is everyone else's vote. And we have a lot of questions throughout this US about how is our vote being counted?
Well, what do you think? What, here in Washington County,
Yes,
what has happened with our system? Because you worked as a poll worker,
yes,
right? So those ballots are taken out, put in a bag,
yes,
brought back here.
yes,
They're brought by an R and a D.
correct.
So do you think those two people are cheating and
I
maybe
didn't say
messing with the
anyone was
ballot?
cheating.
Or hiding them?
No one said cheating.
No. I'm just asking you the question. You're not saying they're cheating.
What you're telling me is you have more people on the night to count them versus bringing them back here with less people to count, which is a burden and a lot more time for a smaller amount of people when you can actually control it in your own precinct.
Well, let me just see. So in other words, if we looked at the poll books, I'm gonna use it for instance, okay? The total poll book voting count was 1,012. And the scanned ballots are 1,012. Or the scanned ballots are 1,012 provisionals. Because the provisionals didn't go through the machine,
No, they did not.
right?
Correct.
So at that point, those are the same, they add up to the same number. Right?
Your
1,000
tabulator is.
And plus the 12 provisionals, and the poll book said that we had 1,012 humans come to vote.
I don't think we're comparing to the poll books, we're comparing with the tabulator.
Well, no, but I'm saying if you have you'd have the poll book number and you have the total number of ballots the scanner said went through plus the provisionals.
Of the day of election. because the
yeah,
poll books
at
will
the
also
end,
print out,
right.
ones that voted early, am I correct?
So at that point,
It'll show who voted early, but it doesn't include that.
Yeah,
last
no,
two.
I think we're down to
Right.
the tabulator itself,
Then.
not the other. Is that tabulator counting what actually was put into there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're asking, is
Yeah,
that tabulator?
Just,
well, I'm just saying though,
Counting
if it's the same number as the poll books, when you
I'm
get
not
done.
saying poll books, I'm saying the tabulator.
Yeah, but I'm
Unless they're
saying the
connected
poll
or
book
reading each
counted the
other.
number of humans that
No,
came
they're
to
not
vote.
connected to each other.
Okay, then why are we using the poll book to verify what the tabulator read?
Well, I'm saying if they're the same number, what would be your concern? What is happening between, we wait for our staff to do the counting with whomever we bring in versus we're gonna count them at the precinct? What's the concern that something bad happened?
Because I've been told by you that that's a lot of hours, that's a lot of time, that's burdensome when you can have more people that took an oath to work the polls, to count them in their own precinct.
Jolene, I'd like for you to
Yeah,
ask
but-
your poll
but-
workers, if you were, how many of them would like to stay and actually count the vote?
Actually, that would, we'll say, I mean,
You know,
I don't know.
I
until we
can
ask
even bring it
them.
up to training. I can say, you know, it's been suggested that we ask you guys to stay and count the vote. I
Well,
guarantee, I
That's
will
something,
not get it.
that's something the board has to vote on.
Exactly, it's something we
Okay,
have.
well, it wouldn't hurt to ask, because you don't know, and before I leave, because I've
I
got
would
work.
be concerned
Yes.
that after a day like that, I mean, I wouldn't be able to count my $20 from the bank. I mean, I'd be so exhausted at the end of that day that it would be inaccurate. You know, I always count my money backwards and forwards and I check it with everything. People after a long day like that, I think a lot of the poll workers are older, there's different ones, but have different situations, but that would be more of a cause for inaccuracy. I think that'd be ridiculous. I would not trust that. I bet you couldn't count 1,000 votes acting the same way backwards and
We're doing it
forwards
in Bath
after
County.
a 15-hour day or whatever it is. I mean, that just doesn't make any kind of sense. And again, it's new for those people. And a lot of them maybe were poll workers for the first time and they, you know, it's been a stress, it's more stressful.
It is a long day,
strained, and
it
it's
is.
exhausting.
It is a long
And then
day.
you want them to stay at 9 o'clock at night. You know, most of them are probably usually in bed at 9 o'clock at night,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
am I.
I
I
think
forgot
that
to
would be
ask,
good.
sorry, forgot to ask, I sent an open records request for the sales receipts for all the vendors. Did you receive that?
Yeah, we did. I sent two of the contracts so far, people were approved to send.
I just.
So it didn't go in my spam or I didn't receive it yet?
I just sent it this morning, so you might not have got it.
Okay, just want to make sure that, and there was another question.
But we're checking with the vendors to make sure there's nothing they have in their contracts that, we're not allowed.
Well, in that case right there is over 20 pages of a contract that has connectivity and source codes that one state can use against another state. It's fascinating that, but I will send that to you. Also, can I have permission to send you the Supreme Court case, direct link okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Right. Yes,
I'd just like to say that I am not for hand balance and hand counting of the entire system, like Georgia just going to. But I do think it's wonderful that we go through all the different processes when the ballots come back here, and it looks like, I was looking through the security, it looks like we have several places that make sure that everything is there and everything is counted, and each of us have had our votes counted. So that's what's important to me. So I appreciate the different checks you have and the accreditation and so forth.
There's a case, there's a couple counties or about 3 or 4 up in Wisconsin voted to go back to hand counting, and the Department of Defense is suing them. And why would the Department of Defense be suing a county because they want to hand count their ballots? You said in here your boss is Frank LaRose. I don't know. I just think we have with all the electronic stuff. So with all the electronic stuff going on, I think it's
again,
in the cases, the
a
stuff.
lot of what you pointed out, and I've mentioned it to a couple of other folks when I get people that are running for office. I've said, you brought up, as I pointed out that and I apologize, I've forgotten his name, the gentleman that testified about all the vulnerabilities and so forth. And I said, at the end, when he was questioned, he said, well, there's no evidence it's ever happened in the US. But I said, it does bring up an issue about, how are we doing, et cetera. But it appears to me the concerns you have are perhaps more appropriately addressed to people at the General Assembly. Certainly, Mr. LaRose, who's in charge of elections, because at the end of the day, what the legislature says the law is when they put it in, unless a court says it's wrong or we're interpreting it wrong or whatever. I'm just suggesting that maybe that's a better place to go where they say, hey, this is how Ohio's going to do it, in the future. Just pointing out, as opposed to, from each board where you have to then go back and talk to your boss, Mr. LaRose, and he has a different viewpoint. I don't know. I'm just suggesting, and maybe you're doing that. Obviously I'm not paying attention if you're writing, people in the General Assembly, et cetera, saying, hey, it's time we change the law. Just saying, because again, they were the ones that gave us the money to buy the machines.
And that's a problem. You said he's your boss. He gives you the money to put the machines in the county. We don't have control of the machines. We don't know what's inside the black box. We have no clue what's in there. Do you have complete control of the passwords and the security of the machines?
Yes.
You have complete control of the passwords. The vendors, RBM, nobody else has the passwords.
They provide us the password.
No, they're part of the system. And again,
So you don't have complete control of it.
Lisa, I think we trust them and you have concerns.
And the 3 guys are all top level ES&S, ES&S employees. And
Well, that was
ES&S was bought out by Dominion.
ES&S.
Well, some of the RBM.
RBM's 3 top
Oh,
guys
yeah,
at ES&S.
I know.
And your RBM, your election vendor said in other counties and other states, we allow internet access to the machines. Your vendor also
I
said,
know, I know.
and you don't care.
I
You don't
know.
give a damn.
I know, that's, again, their business is selling equipment.
That's terrible.
Did anyone have any questions or concerns with what was just recently brought up you wanted to discuss? All right, anyone want to make any motions regarding anything that was brought up? Well, hearing none, we're gonna go on with the rest of our business. The minutes.
We presented the minutes earlier, if there's any edits.
No.
No edits, I get a 100%. Thank you.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in
You sign
favor?
one and
Aye.
sign.
Opposed? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, yep.
Check. I did look over it yesterday, last week. And if you guys would like copies of the minutes, I'll slow it down. Oops.
And then they have no questions.
And then we have bills. Again, the triad, this remote ballot marking file conversion. This is pursuant to this law that, and the Secretary of State wanting to make sure folks who are that need some assistance.
Right, mostly it helps for people who are visually impaired, because it'll read the. They qualify, they fill out a special application, attesting that they have a disability. And request the ballot to be emailed. We don't get very many of those, but each time we have to have it, they can be so. It kind of came from a lawsuit several years ago. We were provided grant money for a while. For it, but we paid on that last year. Grant money. But so for each election, we have to provide that. We do actually have 3 people, that are getting ballots that way for this election.
And that's mandated by higher us.
Yeah, by one.
All right. Anything else?
To approve bills.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed. Correspondence.
Some of
24.
them, yeah, some of them, and these have been the ones as, you're supposed to share with your legal counsel, they've been shared with. The 24, it's the. Or and the advisory. That have to do with delivering some ballots back to our office. Absentee ballots. And then the one, the 2025 was the revised form of the ballot, which had to do with the ballot language changing for issue 1. And then the 2024-26 is the write-in candidates for president.
Back to 2024, that's the one, you understand, or 2024, 20. If a person brings in an absentee ballot for another person, they are required to come in now and sign an affidavit. The secretary has suggested that we could put a DNR out there by the box
Or in our parking lot.
or in our parking lot under a canopy shelter to watch the people
Well, to
come in.
receive the ballots from.
To receive the ballots
Yeah,
and
that
making
should be-
sure that is an option that the boards can choose to do so. I am encouraging you not to do that.
Do we have the poster from the box?
We're getting the poster on today, yes, because the box is open. I talked with Chris Burnett, who's a longtime secretary's employee. And I said, does this mean that we have to watch the video from the night before to see if anybody, you know, was putting more than one ballot in there? He said, obviously no. So, the people that are going to the nursing home, which is two of our poll workers, one an E, one an R, they will have to sign an affidavit. If
They don't,
oh, they don't?
no, since they're our employees, they don't.
Okay, since they're considered our employees, they don't have to.
That's good.
If I bring one in for.
Or if it was like an employee of the nursing home.
Yeah. They would have to, okay.
They don't have to, because
We
we're.
tell the nursing homes, we would let the nursing homes know that if they're gonna have anybody bring.
We actually, we're gonna send staff to the poll workers to vote all the people.
They're gonna probably do it in 2 to 3 days. But yeah, we're sending Janet Gilbert from Belgrade and Maggie Webster from Belgrade. Has done it for the last couple of
Because the
years.
nursing homes requested for us to send.
Yeah.
So you coordinate them with the nursing.
Yes,
homes,
we
so
do.
they know we're coming.
They know
Yes,
how to come in
yes.
and get people.
Yes. We try to work with the activity director to let them know. But I don't. You know, we had 550 voters yesterday. That counter was full all the time. I don't know, I mean, we're just gonna have to set them aside maybe and they're gonna have to fill out, you know, if they
Yeah,
start
once
bringing. Of
ballots
course, the
start
ballots were
back.
just mailed yesterday. They're not coming in yet. They will be. So I'm just, you know, making you guys aware.
You have to sign an affidavit that just moved down.
Yeah, this.
Well, there's a table, I think we're gonna put them under there, but the paper table.
It's still, I think, in lawsuit, I think that's still in litigation currently.
Actually, it is, it's gone to the Supreme Court. I'm surprised before today or yesterday
No,
that
but I
the
mean,
Supreme
it's-
Court didn't make a
But that,
decision.
yeah, that changed. What's in court now might change a little.
Yeah.
But it's not currently changed yet. So anyway, like if I bring back my husband's, I.
Have you heard anything about that?
The litigation?
Yeah.
You're a employee.
That is still at the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
You're not acting.
Because normally they make those decisions before we start voting. But maybe they're all too busy keeping.
This is
But
for
my
being
wife
able
could
to.
come by.
Well, they wouldn't.
Yes.
Yeah, she's, yeah.
If this is a federal court case, it's not good.
It's in the Supreme Court.
It's in the state court as well.
Or, you know, as long as she's with you, and she's seeing it. State Supreme Court, actually.
Yeah. So, but we will have the poster on by today. I do like that because a lot of people still like to put their absentee ballot applications after hours. Meanwhile, we're probably gonna have to, you know, we still have that door slot. Probably gonna have to,
I don't think they need to do it.
you don't think we need to do anything
He
here?
didn't think so, that Chris, he didn't see it. So.
Oh, that's right, he did.
Yeah.
You're right.
So you don't think we need to do anything with regard to?
Well, I mean, if you guys would want to get, it does say in the directive, or advisory, it says in one of them. If you have two employees that are out there collecting ballots, they do have to go through a background.
So we'd have to, and how long does it take to get a background check?
We have to, have one from each party.
I think that's advisory 2403.
Yes.
We need to get them safety vests. Give them all the I voted stickers.
It says you can publicize, the hours of when that would be available.
And this is true also for a family member, correct? Even a family member now has to sign the
Yeah,
affidavit?
yeah. If you're a caretaker of the person, or if you're a family member, anybody, you have to, if you're bringing someone's other than your own, you have to, yeah.
I'll suggest that.
Yeah,
Oh, well, it says here we could connect,
I mean, I just haven't seen anything that. So you're going to.
Well, when you have the bigger cities, but also if you have the kind of facility set up that it might allow for that more easily. So you've got a window that happens to be right for the ballot box outside. But ours is not easily visible unless you're parked outside.
Right.
Tents.
Right.
Well, we'll put the flag up too, that at least kind of gets some. The area.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not yet, but they don't go anywhere.
I mean, we've had a steady use of that ballot box since we've had it, but it hasn't been a, at least, I don't know. Have you ever gotten there where it's just overflowing the ballot boxes?
No, it's
Stuff
never been, no.
full and, right,
No,
I mean, we've had several in it, but it's not here.
right. So that's why I'm saying I just
Just make sure it
haven't
goes
seen
to
anything
plastic all over
that
the
I would have
box.
thought people were.
well, they gave us,
Whatever
they laminated it, so we were gonna put it on the front,
There was like.
right where they pull the slot down.
And what else, the website?
So I think take
Well,
the people
Yeah.
away and sit them there again.
Yeah.
Right.
And then end up. going to agree with that. All right. All right, anything else?
I think that was the main thing, was
Right.
correspondence, and that was the first thing listed in.
And that's the first part of our business.
So then, the machine allocation is just to approve it again. Since we're.
It's pretty standard, right?
Yes,
Every
the same-
machine available.
Yes, the same that you approved,
Do we have any that are gonna be extras in case?
the only extras would be, the OVOs, the scanners, every freedom vote.
Is going out.
Yeah.
And again, they've been through all of our testing,
They haven't tested the ones that'll go out to the polling locations,
not yet,
no, but the ones we're using in the office have been tested.
all right, and when is that testing gonna start?
I don't think we had it set up yet. And do you remember, did Mike say when he was gonna come and do the testing?
Yes, I think it's the week of the 14th. Yeah, I think he's coming the week of the 14th. It's Mike's coming in, and then our RBM's really low down because of not having Ryan, obviously. By the way, I talked to him last night. Is bored to death. What? His cell phone, oh, yeah, just texting. Cause you can text. We're going to get Darren, who's come in and done our LNA testing. His brother will be our election day support. So I guess RBM is looking for talented people that can help because losing Ryan was a big chunk for them. And us.
So the,
Machine
Do we
application.
need to?
Yeah.
right,
We approve the machine allocations.
Second.
any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye, opposed, Pat?
To see this. These are the machines that we send
That
out.
one is there's an error in the.
Oh, yeah, we didn't
The
change it to
location.
the Lighthouse.
It should be Lighthouse.
Yeah, instead of Warren.
Do you still think I need to ask ODOT to do a message board out that way?
I would.
Okay,
Since we changed to.
Anything that helps the
Anything that helps,
voter,
yeah.
and
yeah.
we don't want a lot of untoward traffic going to the high school.
Mhm.
They probably have enough traffic.
Well, we'll put signs there too, but maybe I'll put one on 339 at the school. Off of 339.
Where they
James
turn.
Turn.
Yeah, that it
Yeah.
would say voting in White
Yeah,
House,
yeah, and Lighthouse also uses their billboard,
their system.
yeah,
So they offer two. I would,
yeah, that I can get to if it's available.
if you put one down right after the light in Barlow,
On what?
339.
Okay, 339 and
Another
Barlow.
one up before Warrior Drive. For the bunker.
Okay.
Before
And
the
then-
subway and the bunker, right there.
Near the
where-
bunker,
where the
okay.
people who were coming from Little Hawking area,
Yeah,
in order to get to that building 6, you take that little, or not 6, but the 2.
okay.
You take that little turn off.
Wonder if we should put those signs at the four-way stop too, pointing towards the lighthouse.
We have extras, I put them all out there.
Okay.
Is that must with their locations? Enough that we wanna make it real clear and real easy.
Okay. Okay, will do.
Yeah, that way people that are coming again from Little Hawking,
Mm-hmm.
339. Well, they take that turn off, they'll remind them, voting is at Lighthouse, go straight.
And then coming from Bartlett, they'll see the message,
Yeah,
because the message board's just one-sided.
Yeah.
So.
so like facing Beverly, facing
Yeah,
Waterford, facing the fairgrounds.
okay,
So that when they come from the fairground side towards Lighthouse,
okay,
they'll realize that it's
By
there.
the way, I've seen other boards of election websites put on their homepage, you know, yellow sign or something, change of polling location.
Okay.
Put that on the website
Yeah.
too.
And share it on Facebook.
Share it on
Yeah.
Facebook, just everywhere.
yep,
Do you send postcards out still to let?
Oh,
people-
yes.
Yeah, we'd already sent those out.
yeah, we sent those out in the
Yeah.
summer.
People don't read them.
I mean, the change to lighthouse stuff?
Yeah, to Lighthouse, yeah, we sent.
Sometimes I think people would see the Facebook before they would see the,
Yeah, we have a few followers.
because, well, but then if you share that, there are some of those like community boards, and
Mhm.
message boards that people
Yeah.
want to share it to.
And the point is, I mean, we can only do what we can do,
Yeah,
right? We want to be in a position to always say, we posted it,
Yeah,
share it on Facebook,
exactly.
it's on the
Okay.
website, you got a card.
If we each, if people amplify it themselves, then
Mhm. I have asked WTAP to do an interview with us every week, at least one day a week until election, and they've agreed to do that. So continue hammering that down as well.
And it was just something in the newspaper.
Yeah. Oh, I've got our poll worker numbers. We currently have 157 poll workers signed up. That's not including our new group. My problem is because school is out that day, a lot of kids don't want to. Is your daughter? Is there any, huh? So, but they get a school excuse. She wants to. Well, anybody at Veritas too, if you know of anybody. But I spoke to Marietta High School, she ran out of applications. So, I told her she could just copy more of them, so that's good news. Warren, I think I'm gonna have maybe 3 or 4, which is kind of depressing because Warren usually brings me several, 10 at least. And Fort Fry, I think there's only a couple, because again, the students. Now, a lot of the kids are interested in that because they have extracurricular activities or they work after school to work during that school day and be ushers and sticker people. I'm getting people that are interested in doing that. So, and that's during the school hours. For them to get paid, they have to work during the school hours.
So it would be possible for a student to just do the.
Yes.
school hours.
And they could be parking lot attendants, you know, yes. They won't have to go through training. But I'm hoping that I get more of those that say, hey, I kind of like to work the polls instead of just being the sticker person. So hopefully, and I'm actually calling juniors that worked last year that are seniors now. Most of them are at Washington State. So,
You have to be 17.
yes, and you guys have to approve these. I'm still needing more Democrats. I've had several poll workers, I'm very pleased to say that they are willing to work anywhere. So that means I'm probably gonna send some Dems down to Belgrade. Fairgrounds, I don't know how many they have, I need to work with Mike on that and see if he's good with that. I mean, I realize that's our largest precinct. I think that someone's right now. There. The secretary, Caleb called me yesterday and just asked how things were going, and I said, they were concerned with our numbers for poll workers, because I had, at that time, only 149. And I told him I'm getting more every day. He says, well, we can help you with advertising if you need that, and I said, I will take that. I will take that. So if, he says, do you need one party or the other? And I said, I'm good on Republicans, but I do need Democrats. So I don't know if that means they're gonna, I doubt the bus commercial, but maybe we'll just start advertising more in our area, so. We can
We
get
have 64 workers. at the
64 at the fairgrounds, that's a lot. So I'm gonna work with Mike.
So everywhere else is around like 10,
Those are smaller,
17, Belgrade,
yeah, I need more Belgrade, I know that.
20 at my house.
He's more there. Again, those Warren students were probably there. But I have my first Frontier student, I'm so happy. She's a career center student, but we've never had participation from Frontier. So we're very happy about that. The other thing concerning this, I put it on our Facebook page and I want to talk to the TAP and the paper about it. I keep hearing that both campaigns are saying we need observers, poll, people to poll watchers. There's a specific way that people can become an observer or a poll watcher. And they have to be first approved, but they have to be representing the party, a candidate, or an issue. And they have to, there's specific paperwork that the party or the committee for the issue has to fill out, and we have to approve it. So right now I have received one from the Republican Party of Ohio and one from ODP. So I haven't received any local, and I think the last day to do that is maybe, I just saw that the other day.
Yeah, I can't.
I think it's maybe the 18th, so just next week. So I'll try to put that out on the Facebook again as well. We have a lot of first-time poll workers too. That's good news.
Thank you. Memorial tree for Glen.
Yeah, we kind of just talked about that before, this would just be like our, we would just personally, if anybody was interested, we could all, go together to, since Tony's our board member that passed away this year. If we would get to do that, we thought maybe like on the bike path, somewhere, yeah, to put up a tree. So it's not, it's really more, I guess, personal, more like we're not asking the office. But personal.
Yeah. Yeah, and
We
the
talked to her a
location.
little bit one time when she was there, so she thought it was kind of the bike path, but yeah.
So we're thinking the bike path instead of the here in Marion.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's obviously was a
You wanna get
important
some
place to
cost
them.
for the tree.
So, yeah.
And we'll do it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna have that.
So the list, I think we need to
Yeah.
make a motion. So the list is, we confirm these are registered voters and all the requirement they meet all the requirements.
Yes.
I will move to approve the list of poll workers pending any additions or changes in their potential location.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes.
What does the J?
Okay, J's are first-time poll workers, or just, they're called judges. You have judges, leaders, T's are for youth at the booth, and A's are our voting location managers. Oh, I want to tell you that if you'd like to come next Monday, we do have to work. It is a federal holiday, but we have to be open. Next Monday at 5 o'clock, we're meeting with all the VLMs. And I'm hoping to get somebody from the sheriff's office to talk to them about de-escalation exercises. But if any of you would like to attend as well, it will be probably
What is the holiday?
Columbus Day.
What are VLMs?
Voting location managers,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I try not to talk in alphabet soup. Yeah,
Right.
voting location managers, Js are judges, Ls are leaders, and Ts are youth.
The voting location manager, they're the head over that whole location.
We have 9
So
locations.
you're gonna find that. Cost for the
Yeah.
tree and then. Get with the city.
Yeah, I think there's an application maybe we have to do with the city. So I think Melissa had kind of brought it up, the Harley only. That's on the
Artists, yeah.
Yeah, so we probably work with it, and then, with the mayor, so. Yeah. And then for absentee voting numbers, we had about 500, I think it was 551 yesterday. And we had one person vote curbside. Everything went, pretty smoothly. We did have, one complaint, someone, a voter had called the Secretary of State's office where there's another voter that made a comment as was walking into the voting room. The machines are set up, as we, they just want to know what happens.
He said something like, I'm saving democracy and.
From a
It's the
certain-
orange, the orange blob or something stupid.
Reference, it was a reference to one of the candidates. It wasn't the candidate's name, but it was a reference to one of the presidential candidates.
And the funny thing is, the guys working in there knowing, believe he's a Republican, so he's probably just doing that just.
Yeah, so we, I let them know, people try to make comments, just tell them please, don't think there's bad comments, totally location.
And we did have a voter that had
I'll try to get them
a political shirt and a hat, and he was asked to remove them,
And
and he did.
he was slow too, but he wasn't questioning.
Yeah, he
was
wasn't-
just
He just
slow.
looked at her,
So
so we're not sure what that meant.
he was just kind of processing, I think, it is, but, yeah.
We had a line yesterday, but I got here at 7:30, and Andy was here, so we had a line already. There were several people, I think one car was here
There's one
today,
car here this morning.
so.
Well, I did it yesterday. What's the?
We sent out about 4,000 some ballots in the mail, so.
Yeah, how many absentee ballots did we send out?
I don't know the exact number.
4,000. I'm
It's around
working on-
4,000.
I'm working on 4,100, I think, right now.
I think we probably should be over that now.
Maybe it's
Because with
43.
people coming in,
I
with the people that came in.
I did a lot of
yesterday.
42s yesterday, so. And obviously the initial. I want to thank the board, the initial push, to get those out yesterday. It was wonderful for us not to do that. I think our machine would have blown up, both printers would have blown up if we had to print all those ballots. So it made us able to help the girls out front if needed. We were able to put in more applications and get ready for the board meeting, so thank you. It made the first day of the voting much easier for us as
Yes.
staff.
I didn't, Mr. Swindle was kind enough to provide us with a hand count analysis dated May 13 of 2024 from Butler County, Ohio. Now, first off, they point out that like us, since 2008, we've been conducting these audits. And they have always been well above the 99.5% accuracy. And of course, we have as well. And I'd have to try to remember if we've ever been in a position where we didn't have 100% accurate. But they then went through and did this is a about a 6-page document where they went through and put down what they thought would be an appropriate timeline, if you will, of how long it would take to do each of the items. And also a cost estimate. Now granted, Butler County, I think, has over 250,000 registered voters, so they're certainly larger than us. But for one election, they estimated it will cost Butler County $827,520 to hand count ballots. And it would be an exhaustive affair, for lack of a better way of putting it. The average count time, 2 hours, 14 minutes, and that would be counting 150 ballots. That it would take 2 hours, 14 minutes. If I got that right. And again, they're trying to estimate how many other issues or candidates would be on any given ballot. Because again, folks kind of think in terms of, well, if we're having, if it's the governor, the secretary of state, well, that's only, 5 or 6 items. Well, what about the liquor options, the levies, state issues, constitutional changes? Again, we have a 2-page ballot this time. And so you can imagine, again, in other communities, other areas, they could have 6, 7, 8 pages that you're going to be counting. And it's not like, when you're doing a paper ballot, not everything goes through in a nice stack. If you open that thing up and it's like, whoa, they're crinkled, they're up here or they're over there, et cetera. So it's not like you're going to have a packet of this, whoever this person was, gee, it fell nice and neat and so forth. So again, they'd be hand counting, maybe 5 first pages and then a 7th page, et cetera, if they were just taking 150 pieces of paper.
Mr. Chairman, is that something that we could share with the group that is?
Oh, we can, yeah, I frankly, they sort of got away before I mentioned it, yes.
You said 150 ballots took 2 hours and 14 minutes?
Well, because of everything you have to do, again, this is not like just, we sit here and we grab a bunch and run over to a corner. Because when we go into a ballot, we're in a ballot cycle now. And everything that happens with 2 humans, 1 R, 1 D, and we're moving things and we're trying to keep track of every piece of paper that moves anywhere. And so it's not just like, well, I'll grab a wad here and away we go. Not quite that simple. We're trying to keep track of who's got what would happen. So there's a great deal of that. And like I said, if, again, Mrs. Ritter and I are doing the counting and we come up with different numbers. Or if we're going to use that sort of tally system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's going to be a category for everything that's on an election. And then they run this way with the precincts. Because everyone wants to know that. That's part of what we do is we provide information for a candidate who's going to run in 4 years or someone who's going to run in 2 years. I mean, how many R's or how many D's or, who got this kind of vote or on this issue, how did they vote on that? Those are things people expect us to be able to tell them. So we have to keep track of all of that. It's just not, we, grab something and away we go. And so their tally sheets, it was interesting here again, because they were talking about the number of different issues they might have or elections, et cetera. I think it was in the sixties. So it was, one sheet for this, one sheet for that, one sheet for this. So you can imagine if you're trying to lay that all out, how you're gonna go about counting it. And then again, if they're using the 150, I mean, to me, that's too many because we have to flip. I
And
mean,
we can
neither
get
one of us,
copies.
we're not going to cheat. I can tell you that. I have known Mrs. Ritter for a long time. She's not gonna cheat. I'm not going to cheat. But we have to satisfy a public that thinks, well, if there's a chance, they cheat. And so I said, so how do we do that? Well, I read them to her. She marks. Now we have to flip. She reads them to me. And those numbers have to come out exact. And again, I go into a brain fog or something as you're talking about, when you get tired and I miss one, and heaven forbid, because this has happened sometimes in smaller elections, you'll get two people whose last name is Jones or Johnson. And they're they're next to one another, a different election though. And you inadvertently, you get started, like it's real easy if you can just use a first or a last name. But it doesn't always work that way. And oh, by the way, on ballots, when you're doing those things, as we know, because we occasionally have to remake an absentee ballot. God bless the post office. Their machine grabs it, and when we get it, it's 3 pieces in an envelope. So we put it all together and get it all, organized, and then we redo it, and we redo it we have an R and a D, and, we call out, and we already go over as a board if it's a situation where maybe the person decided to mark the oval, and they went, oh, that's not the person I wanted to vote for. So they put a big X through it, no. And maybe sometimes they'll go, I want, or they just leave it at no. So the board has to decide what was their intent, because they obviously overvoted. They voted for 2 people in the same election. You can only vote for one, the instruction says. So at that point, we're gonna remake the ballot. So we have the original ballot, we call that OB, and it is given a number. If it's the first one, it's 1. If it's number 329, it's 329. Then there's the original ballot, then the remake ballot. So that's like an RB with the same number. And we put it on a sheet so that we can track all of that. And if anyone ever wanted to know, did we do something untoward? We have the original ballot, we have the other. But we go through as a board and say, do you agree with us? They wanted to vote for Joe Noakes, and they inadvertently voted for, Joe Smith. And they put that big X no. So then we remake the entire ballot, and at that point, it's put through the machine. So that happens, but again, to do that,
Of the brown.
there's a lot of work.
We'll get you a copy.
So anyway, I was, and that's for one election, and we're holding 2 every year. With the possibility that we could have 3. Never know.
And imagine doing that, not necessarily, they just wanted to count in votes, but imagine doing that after working since 6:30 a.m. at the polling location. I mean, we are going to, because the board decided last month that when we do our audit, we are doing a hand count on the audit. So we're asking the poll workers,
Is that minutes? Is
I
that-
think it was,
Here.
I think I put
It
it,
should be, because it was a vote.
yeah, it was a vote, so, what we're gonna do is probably use this room and keep the poll workers so they can make put the ballots in by precinct.
But that's not that night.
No.
No, it's not gonna be that.
No, that'll
That's
be
gonna
our,
be
for
2
our
days
final-
Part
after.
of our audit.
part of our
Certification.
final
Yeah.
canvas, et cetera, all of that process, yeah. That audit and so forth. We're gonna make, again,
It is
I'll
in
be
there,
honest,
okay, I
I
got you.
couldn't grasp what the importance was counting the ballots. I
I think what their concern was is they believe, the tabulators could be fixed so that it won't show, so the tabulator might say 500 votes, but there's really, 600.
But the poll books that checks the human in
I mean, that
is
was
not
their.
connected to the tabulator. There's managed,
Well-
then there's your.
But wouldn't we'd catch that here,
Right, we would catch that,
and before the final canvas,
but that's. just-
which is the final vote.
It actually wasn't.
Everyone gets excited on election night, but we know that we can have recounts. When we get done with the final canvas, we're gonna have a mandatory recount because there's, 1 or 2 vote difference. Remember with the sheriff?
Oh.
Perfect example.
Okay.
All right. I think we're done. Our next, I know what our next meeting.
And it's not at 8:30, it's at
Oh, it's not at
6:30.
8:30.
No, I didn't change the date, but not the time.
6:30.
Yeah,
Well, no, you guys will be in here at 6:30, but
We'll be here at 6.
Meeting with you around 5.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, this is what you
I don't think
Did you want her to have?
No, I just was showing it for your guys'
you're
information.
probably, they want lunch and dinner money.
All right.
If you would like to.
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. There you go.
You.
I don't have anything. I don't carry cash. I'm sorry.
I never carry cash.
Use your debit card, got it.
Was it 20? 30?
I think we're doing 40 now.
We're running 40.
Yeah.
So do you think?
Yeah.